Welcome everyone to this CISO Fireside Chat on building a security-aware culture in application security with Sriram Krishnan from Freshworks, who's the Director of Information Security there. I'm your host, Jaap Singh, co-founder and Director of Customer Strategy at Secure Code Warrior, where our vision is to inspire developers to embrace a preventative secure coding approach that enables every team to ship quality software with confidence. So building a security-aware culture, it's a topic that I'm very passionate about. And I've got Sriram, who's also very passionate, who's going to be telling us all his tips and tricks. He's going to give away all his secrets to us today. So we can also go into our organizations and build a security-aware culture. So first of all, Sriram, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Jaap, for having me.
And from what I understand, you've recently just been promoted as well to Director of Information Security less than a month ago. So congratulations on that.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the wishes. Thank you.
So why don't we start, maybe if you just want to give us a quick rundown about your role, what Freshworks does, and just explain us what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. So Freshworks is a SaaS-based company. We develop SaaS product across customer experience, IT service management, sales and marketing, and HR and management. And my role at Freshworks is to lead the various information security function cutting across security engineering, SOC, our governance, risk compliance, and go-to-market function.
Awesome. And now today we're going to be talking about creating a security-aware culture. I want to make sure that our audience, whoever is listening, because things in security can mean lots of different things to different people, or some people might not even be aware. So what does security-aware culture mean to you?
So before that, I would actually try to take a step back and look at risks, right? So if you really look at security, we try to reduce the risk exposure. As you're well aware, there is an iceberg of perception. There's a small bit of iceberg on top of the surface and a lot beneath. So if you really look at that iceberg of perception, security is often perceived as a technology risk. But there is a hidden risk to it. The hidden risk is the awareness and the behavior, which has to be looked into. So I would look at culture as three elements. One is awareness, other one is behavior, and which is equivalent to culture. So awareness is all about what I know. Behavior is about what I do. And culture is about what we know and we do collectively in an organization or in a society. So when you're talking about security culture, it's pretty important to define it correctly and understand it.
Awesome. I love that formula. So awareness plus behavior equals culture. I can take that away and I can apply that in my day job. I like it. Awesome. So talk to me about, in your past, why did this need come up? Why did you think, hey, why do we need a security aware culture?
Definitely. So if you really look at how technology has evolved over the decades, right? It's also important that information security as a domain should evolve or should keep pace with. So it's not just about tools or technique. It's also about understanding the requirement. Today in today's business world, right? It's like F1 race. If I have to kind of define it, it's like an F1 race, and security is like what we do in a pit stop. So what we need is precision. We need to be aware about the timing, speed. Need to have the right tool sets. Need to have competency. Last but not the least, you need to have a clear understanding of what is your task and what is your role. So over the period of decade, over 5 to 6 years, the business in itself has seen a sea of change, right? So it's all about getting to the market fast and understanding the customer requirements and getting your features out as quickly as possible. So organizations want to have high velocity. And we as security professionals should be completely aware about that and ensure that security is not an impediment, but enables that secure operating environment for the customer, at the same time doesn't impact the velocity. So that should be the major objective. And that is what has changed over the past decade.
Awesome. So let's say I'm a security professional. I'm bought into this vision of, I believe I need to create a security aware culture. it's a pretty hefty goal for you to try and achieve. So how have you done that in the past? What would you recommend to people who are going on this journey? How do you go about this process?
A nice question. So generally, when you're talking about changing a security culture of the organization, it is often perceived that it is a change that is actually required in the rest of the organization, but not within the security team itself. I would say it is the balance. It is both a change that is required within the security function, and also I would say the security function. So if you really look at what we need to do, first I'll talk about what we need to do as security professionals, right? Is to ensure that we move from more, or we shift from more of exclusivity to inclusivity, right? Generally, if you really look at how the security domains operated in the yesteryears, years, it's like a parallel line in an organization. They operate parallelly, and it is considered to be exclusive. So you always stand apart. So what we need to do is to have a more inclusive culture, to have a better collaborating working environment with the product and the engineering teams. The second important point is to ensure that security is all about partnership. It's not about ownership, right? If I have to give an example, we as security team identify vulnerabilities and throw those vulnerabilities to the engineering team, saying that, okay, now you have to fix it, right? And sometimes even the measurement is based on what we identified. So we need to move away from the culture and see that as a security professional in a product organization, I want to ensure that I want to reduce the risk of my product. So I will work along with and partner with my development teams to ensure that there is a reduction of risk, rather than saying, okay, I've done my job and now this is your ownership to go ahead and mitigate the risk. The third important thing is we need to embrace transparency and adopt a blameless approach. So this would again create a very healthy environment. And last but not the least, establish platform for outreach, right? Where we educate, we give trends, equally also seek feedback from the engineering teams, which we can actually put again to ensure that, as I said to you, building a secure work environment for our customers and for the employees without impacting the velocity. So that would be from more of the security side of it. So from an organization side, from development or a product side, I would say that there are three solutions which are pretty key. Right? One is giving the right training and guidelines for the developers. Right. Two is the communication, the right tone set from the management in terms of how important security is to the business goals. And last but not the least, having metrics to measure the user behavior analysis. So if you really look at from a training standpoint, it's not about just going ahead and talking about OWASP top 10 or generic common security vulnerabilities. You need to personalize it, meaning, for example, we can go back, look at what all the vulnerabilities identified in the product for the past 2-3 years. Pick your top 5 and go back to the developers and say, okay, from a product standpoint, from what we use as a technology and what we've observed, these are all these are all the top 5 things that you have to do to immediately arrest the risk exposure. From a communication standpoint, I think this is where the management, the boards, the audit committees role come into play, where constant communication from the management in terms of having security as a business objective is very critical, and it demonstrates the seriousness, and it actually percolates those objectives into goals for the engineering and the product teams. And last but not the least, in terms of the user behavior, so we often we don't connect the dots, right? So we need to connect what is happening in training, the communication from the management to what is happening on ground. So you have a product team and you have 2 squads, and you look at those data and you provide the training. And once they get into the job, right? Today, there is an ample amount of opportunities through technology to really measure where they stand. For example, in terms of the bug density ratio. So how much code they have checked in vis-a-vis how many vulnerabilities were identified. You kind of create a trend and you show that. And that trend can be drilled down to an individual developer. That is what I'm talking about. Just not for the product level, can be drilled down to the individual developer. Now, this would really see whether whatever that you're giving as training and whatever that you're communicating as policies and procedures and building as process are ultimately getting translated as results. So this is what I was talking about: awareness, right? Behavior, which is built through the processes, and last but not the least, the culture. Now that has to be measured, and that measures goes through the user behavior analysis.
Awesome. I think there was so much goodness there. If you're trying to create a security-aware culture in your organization, I think just go back, just watch this video, what Sriram said like 10 times over and try to take as many notes as you can. I think that was absolutely awesome. The bit that I loved the most was the fact that I guess change starts from self-reflection, right? So you have to look at yourself as a security organization, and there's not just culture change with the rest of the organization. There's always things that we need to do, right? We need to become more inclusive as well. In your experience, Sriram, what have you noticed as the common pitfalls? Like, what is it that an organization or a security professional might do incorrectly that might lead them to not creating a good culture? Like, what are the common pitfalls or mistakes that people make?
So one of the common pitfalls that I see that we make is to have clear understanding from a security standpoint in terms of the business goals. Now, why I say this, these business goals translate as goals for engineering teams, for product teams, for business, and also for security. So if you don't really understand the business goals, you'll not be very clearly able to understand what is the expectation out of, for example, an engineering and product team. So it's not about just switching on switch and everything turns green overnight. So it has to be a phased approach. So what this gives is trust. So for the developers with the security team. So understanding of the business goals and the engineering goals can help security professionals to better solution whatever that they have. So security being the solution being very intrusive in nature. Can stop a lot of things. So that's one of the major pitfalls I can see in organizations, where a lack of understanding leads to a miscommunication and lack of trust. And then once the bridge is burned, it's very difficult to again build it, because it's, as I said, it's not ownership, it's a partnership.
Yeah. So for anyone who's kind of struggling with that piece, maybe they don't have a clear understanding from the business in terms of what their goal is or key objectives are that they're contributing to as a cyber organization. Is that something that you've run into in the past as well? Have you had to deal with that? How do you talk to your executive leadership to get that sort of clarity and really be aligned with those business goals? How do you go about that as a security professional?
So when I go and talk to executives and to the management, I try to put myself in their shoes and see what exactly they want from us. So sometimes as technology folks, we might slip into more of technical details, probably which the board doesn't want to hear. Probably sometimes it could be a binary answer. So, so understanding what they need would definitely help a security professional to link security risk to a business problem. So me going and saying, I have 100 vulnerabilities, there is some cross-site scripting, or there is a SQL injection vulnerability that we have identified. You can translate that and show how it could impact your employees or your customers and ultimately the business. So that's the language that we need to speak when we go to executives. Now, what this will also help is once you start bringing that clarity, right? It would also help in clear decision making, even in terms of budgets.
Awesome. And then let's talk a little bit about the culture piece. So let's say I'm someone who wants to introduce this culture. I want to create this environment of inclusivity. I want to train people with the right skill sets. What is it that I should be doing? Like, what's some practical advice that you would give to other budding security professionals that want to go down on the same journey? What is it that they can start doing today?
So the first thing that they need to do is be aware of the technology stack that they are actually working on. Be aware of the processes that are being used by the engineering teams. Today, everybody adopts an agile methodology. Understand the processes that they're doing with. And definitely, if there are no security requirements, build those security requirements on top of it. And now what this will help is, this will kind of help to scope out. Once the scope is there, then you will be in a position to see whether you need to build right from the awareness stage, or do we have to start from the behavioral stage? As I normally say, right, it's a thin line of difference. Everybody is aware that we should wear helmets or we should not jump signals, but it doesn't happen like that. So you need to really see value, and more often than not, trust me, it's not about the awareness, it's about the behavior. And that's where, as a security professional, I always urge folks to understand both the technology and the business requirements. So that would be a good place to start and to scope out in terms of what is going to be your the security professional's role in influencing the culture.
Yeah, and then last question for you, and this is something that I come across quite a bit, is security professionals are scared sometimes with taking on this sort of undertaking, especially like you said, we're quite technical. We give us a tool and we'll figure it out. But if we're talking about humans, we're talking about culture, it's quite daunting, and people often worry about failure. So let's say I've been on this journey, I've tried to create a security aware culture, and I've failed. Do I only get one chance, or do you think I can do it again?
No, definitely it is a journey, and everybody can't get it first right at the first step. So I have been through a lot of experiences and gained this through quite a bit of failures. So that's going to happen. But what we need to really do in those failures is have a real inquest to see where it has actually gone wrong, and that is going to help you massively in aligning. And most of the time, I'll tell you, the main challenge is the alignment. That's exactly where the challenge comes from. So as you rightly said, the security professionals are well equipped. They know the right tools. They are technically very good to take on the job. But more often than not, where it kind of misses out is the whole alignment part. So from my experience, what I have done over a period of time is to see slowly how I can translate the security language to the business language. So that has been my experience over a period of time, which has helped me in kind of building that culture.
Awesome. So we'll end it there. Thank you so much for your time, Sriram. And for the people listening, watching, if there's one thing that you take away, and this is what I'm taking away from this chat, is awareness plus behavior equals culture. Thank you so much for your time, Sriram.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jaap, for having me here. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers, bye.